Pretend to be my boyfriend, she begged a stranger, unaware he was a ruthless mafia boss. Her drunk ex wouldn't let go, gripping her arm tighter as the crowd watched. Desperate, she spotted a dangerous-looking stranger in the VIP section and begged him to pretend to be her boyfriend. What she didn't know, the man who claimed her with a single word was city's most feared mafia boss. And he meant every word of it. The bass thrummed through Lily's chest like a second heartbeat as she pushed through the sweaty crowd of Midnight Eclipse, Chicago's most exclusive nightclub. Neon lights painted faces in electric blues and pinks, and the air tasted of expensive perfume and poor decisions. She shouldn't have come tonight. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around and leave, but her best friend Maya had insisted. You can't hide from Ryan forever, Lil. Live your life. Now, as she felt familiar eyes burning into her back across the crowded dance floor, Lily knew she'd made a terrible mistake. There you are, beautiful. The voice made her blood turn to ice. Ryan's hand clamped down on her wrist before she could slip away, his grip tightening like a steel trap. The smell of whiskey and desperation rolled off him in waves, and his usually handsome face was twisted with something dark and possessive. Let go of me, Ryan. Lily tried to pull free, but his fingers dug deeper into her skin, leaving white marks. Around them, couples kept dancing, lost in their own worlds, oblivious to her rising panic. 3 months, Lily. 3 months you've been hiding from me. His bloodshot eyes were wild, unfocused. I've been calling, texting, showing up at your apartment building. Because we're over. She yanked harder, but Ryan was stronger. He'd always been stronger. You scared me, Ryan. The way you'd follow me to work, the threats you made to my friends. I was protecting you. His voice cracked with rage, spittle flying from his lips. You don't understand how dangerous this city is for someone like you. How many men would hurt a pretty little thing walking around alone? The irony wasn't lost on her. The most dangerous man in her life was standing right in front of her, his grip leaving bruises on her wrist. You're coming home with me tonight, Ryan continued, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. We're going to fix this. Fix us. Just like before. Like before. When he'd locked her in his apartment for 2 days, claiming he was keeping her safe, when he'd threatened to hurt Maya if Lily ever tried to leave him again. When she'd finally escaped while he was passed out drunk and spent 3 months looking over her shoulder. Panic clawed at Lily's throat as Ryan's grip shifted to her upper arm, his fingers pressing into the tender flesh hard enough to leave marks. The crowd pressed in around them, the music drowning out her voice. No one could hear her. No one cared. That's when her desperate eyes found the VIP section. Elevated above the main floor, behind velvet ropes and guarded by men in expensive suits, sat a figure that commanded attention even in the chaotic club atmosphere. Dark hair, perfectly styled. A black suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. And pale green eyes that seemed to see everything, including her. Most telling of all were the 3 men flanking him. Not bouncers or bodyguards, but something more dangerous. Something that made even the club's security give them a wide berth. Without thinking, desperation overriding every rational thought, Lily wrenched herself partially free from Ryan's grip and stumbled toward the VIP section. Please, she called out, her voice cracking with terror as she looked up at the mysterious man. Pretend to be my boyfriend, please. I'm begging you. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. The stranger's pale green eyes fixed on her with laser focus, then shifted to Ryan, who was already storming after her, his face purple with rage. For a heartbeat that lasted an eternity, Lily thought he might ignore her. Might let Ryan drag her away to whatever fate awaited her. Might turn back to his expensive whiskey and forget she existed. Then he stood. Even from the elevated platform, his presence was overwhelming. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a kind of controlled power that spoke of violence held in careful check. With one fluid motion, he descended the steps, moving with predatory grace. The crowd instinctively parted before him, like the Red Sea. You heard the lady, His voice cut through the pounding music like a blade as he stepped between Lily and Ryan. She's with me. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His face was all sharp angles and cold beauty, with a thin scar running along his jawline that spoke of past violence. But it was his eyes that made Lily's breath catch, pale green, calculating, and absolutely merciless. Ryan, drunk and belligerent, missed all the warning signs. The way conversations stopped around them. The way even the bartenders had frozen in place. The way the strangers, 3 companions, had silently moved to flank them. "Mind your own business, pal," Ryan snarled, still gripping Lily's arm. "This is between me and my girlfriend." The stranger's lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it held any warmth whatsoever. "Girlfriend?" Those piercing eyes shifted back to Lily, and she saw something dangerous flicker in their depths. "Is that what you want me to pretend?" "Yes," Lily whispered, then louder, her voice stronger. "Yes. Please." "Then consider it done." The man's voice was silk over steel as he snapped his fingers once. The response was immediate and terrifying. The 3 suited men materialized around Ryan, like shadows given form. They didn't grab him roughly or make a scene. They simply surrounded him, and suddenly Ryan was being guided away from Lily with professional, silent efficiency. "Wait." Ryan's bravado cracked as he realized what was happening. "You can't just— Who the hell do you think you are?" The stranger straightened his cufflinks with casual indifference, not even watching as Ryan was escorted toward the exit. "Someone you don't want to cross." As Ryan's protests faded into the distance, swallowed by the crowd and the music, the man turned back to Lily. The club around them had fallen into an unnatural hush, patrons watching with a mixture of fear and fascination. "That was either very brave or very stupid," he said, studying her face like she was a puzzle to be solved. "I haven't decided which." Lily's heart hammered against her ribs as the full weight of what she'd done began to sink in. Thank you. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I can just go now." Too late for that. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne and see the flecks of silver in those predatory eyes. "Walk with me." It wasn't a request. Lily found herself being guided back toward the VIP section, his hand light but commanding on her elbow. Around them, the crowd parted like he was royalty, or something far more dangerous. "What's your name?" he asked as they climbed the steps to the elevated platform. "Lily. Lily Chen." Beautiful name. He gestured for her to sit on the pristine white leather couch, positioning himself across from her with predatory grace. "I'm Adrian Cole." The name hit her like a physical blow, stealing the breath from her lungs. Everyone in Chicago knew that name, whispered in back alleys and boardrooms alike. Adrian Cole, the phantom who controlled the city's underground. The man who moved millions in shadows and left bodies in his wake. The Mafia boss she'd just claimed as her boyfriend. "Oh God," she breathed, her face draining of all color. "Oh God, what have I done?" Adrian's smile was sharp as broken glass as he leaned forward, those cold green eyes pinning her in place like a butterfly to a board. "You just made a very bold move, little one. I'm Adrian Cole, the man who owns the city." His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "And you just told everyone here that you belong to me." The music pounded on around them, but Lily could barely hear it over the roaring in her ears. She'd escaped one nightmare only to throw herself headfirst into something infinitely more dangerous. "What have I done?" The question echoed in her mind as she stared into the eyes of Chicago's most feared man, realizing that her desperate plea for protection had just signed her soul away to the devil himself. Lily's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the leather couch, her mind reeling. The VIP section felt like a gilded cage, separated from the chaos of the dance floor below by more than just velvet ropes. Up here, in Adrian Cole's domain, the air itself seemed different, charged with danger and unspoken threats. "I should go," she whispered, starting to rise. "This was a mistake. I shouldn't have." "Sit." The single word cut through the air like a whip crack. Not loud, not aggressive, but carrying such absolute authority that Lily found herself sinking back onto the couch before she could think to resist. Adrian hadn't moved, still lounging with predatory grace across from her, but his pale green eyes had gone arctic cold. "You're not going anywhere, little one." "You don't understand," Lily said, her voice shaking. "I just needed help getting away from my ex. I didn't mean to cause trouble for you." "Trouble for me?" Adrian's laugh was soft and genuinely amused, which somehow made it more terrifying than anger would have been. "Sweetheart, you didn't cause me any trouble. You caused trouble for yourself." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, bringing those calculating eyes level with hers. "Do you see how everyone's watching us right now?" Lily's gaze flickered around the club.
He was right.
From the dance floor to the bar, from the DJ booth to the private booths along the walls, dozens of eyes were trained on their VIP section. Phones were out, no doubt recording, taking pictures. The story was already spreading. "They all saw you run to me," Adrian continued, his voice conversational but edged with steel. "They heard you beg me to be your boyfriend. And they watched me claim you." He tilted his head, studying her face like a scientist examining a specimen. "In my world, that means something. It means you're under my protection. It also means—" He paused, letting the weight of unspoken words hang between them. "What?" Lily whispered. "It means you're a target." The words hit her like ice water. "What do you mean?" Adrian's expression didn't change, but something darker flickered in his eyes. "I have enemies, Lily. Lots of them. Rival families, ambitious lieutenants, federal agents who'd love to see me fall. And now, thanks to your little performance, they all think you're my weakness." "But I'm not," she protested. "We don't even know each other." "They don't know that." He gestured toward the crowd below with casual indifference. "All they know is that Adrian Cole's new girlfriend just made a very public debut. By tomorrow morning, your face will be in files across 3 states. Your name will be whispered in back rooms from here to New York." Lily felt the blood drain from her face. "You're trying to scare me." "I'm trying to keep you alive." His voice softened slightly, but the underlying steel remained. "If you walk out of here tonight, alone and unprotected, how long do you think it'll take before someone decides to use you against me? A day? A few hours?" The implications crashed over her like a wave. She'd thought she was escaping danger by approaching Adrian, but instead she'd painted a target on her back in permanent ink. "So, what are you saying?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "I'm saying you stay close to me, or you don't survive the night." Adrian's smile was sharp as a blade. "Consider it the price of my help." Lily stared at him, searching for any sign that he was bluffing, that this was some elaborate joke. But those pale green eyes held nothing but cold certainty. "I don't have a choice, do I?" "Smart girl." He stood with fluid grace, extending his hand to her.
"Come."
"Let's make this official." "What do you mean?" "I mean," Adrian said, his voice carrying across the VIP section so that his nearby associates could hear, "everyone here needs to understand exactly what you are to me." Reluctantly, Lily placed her hand in his. His fingers were warm, strong, and completely encompassing hers. He helped her to her feet, then turned to face the club below. The crowd had been watching, but now they went completely still. Even the DJ seemed to sense the shift, letting the current song fade, without starting another. Adrian's voice carried across the sudden silence, amplified not by speakers, but by the sheer force of his presence. "Gentlemen. Ladies," he paused, letting his gaze sweep across the faces turned up toward them. "I'd like you to meet someone special." His arm slipped around Lily's waist, pulling her against his side. She could feel the controlled strength in his body, the coiled power held in careful check. "This is Lily," Adrian announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the club. "And she's mine." The words hung in the air like a declaration of war. Lily felt every eye in the building boring into her, felt the weight of 100 conversations that would start the moment they left. Her life, as she knew it, was over. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows that faced the street, a figure caught her attention. Ryan stood on the sidewalk outside, his face pressed against the glass like a man possessed. Even from this distance, She could see the rage contorting his features, the way his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. He'd been watching. He'd seen everything. As their eyes met through the glass, Ryan's mouth moved in what looked like a curse or a threat. Then he turned and stalked away, but not before Lily caught sight of his expression. Pure, concentrated hatred. "Your ex doesn't seem happy," Adrian observed, following her gaze. Lily shivered, suddenly understanding that Ryan's obsession with her had just been transformed into something far more dangerous. He wouldn't just want her back now. He'd want revenge against the man who'd humiliated him in front of hundreds of people. "He's going to cause trouble," she whispered. Adrian's smile was predatory as he watched Ryan disappear into the night. Let him try. The ride to Lily's apartment building was a study in contrasts. Outside, Chicago's late-night streets rushed by in neon blurs, while inside Adrian's black Mercedes, silence reigned like a held breath. The car was immaculate, leather seats that probably cost more than her yearly salary, windows tinted so dark they might as well have been mirrors, and a partition between them and the driver that spoke of conversations meant to stay private. Lily pressed herself against the passenger door, hyper-aware of Adrian's presence beside her. He'd shed his suit jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt that did nothing to hide the powerful frame beneath. A shoulder holster was visible now, the black leather stark against the white fabric, a reminder that this man's world operated by different rules than hers. "This is it," she said as they pulled up to her modest building in Lincoln Park. "Thank you for the ride. I'll walk you up." Adrian was already moving, stepping out of the car with the fluid grace of a predator. "That's not necessary." It wasn't a suggestion. 2 more black cars had materialized behind them, disgorging men in dark suits who took up positions around the building's perimeter. Lily watched in growing alarm as they moved with military precision, turning her quiet residential street into what looked like a crime scene. "Is all this really necessary?" she asked as Adrian's hand settled on the small of her back, guiding her toward the entrance. "You wanted my protection," he said simply. This is what it looks like. Inside her small studio apartment, Adrian seemed impossibly large. Everything that had felt cozy and personal an hour ago now looked shabby and inadequate under his appraising gaze. He moved through her space like he owned it, checking the windows, testing the locks, his pale green eyes cataloging every potential vulnerability. "We need to talk," he said finally, settling onto her couch as if he belonged there. Lily remained standing by the door, arms crossed defensively. "About what?" "About how this is going to work." Adrian's voice was conversational, but there was steel underneath. "Starting tomorrow, you're going to be seen with me. Public appearances, dinner dates, charity galas. Wherever I go, you go." "I never agreed to that." "You agreed the moment you claimed me as your boyfriend in front of half of Chicago's elite." His eyes pinned her in place. "Did you think this was just for one night? That you could use my name and reputation when convenient, then go back to your normal life?" "I thought," Lily faltered, realizing she hadn't thought at all. She'd been desperate, terrified, and had grabbed the first lifeline she'd seen. "You thought wrong." Adrian leaned back, making himself comfortable. "Here's how this works, sweetheart. For the next few months, maybe longer, you're Adrian Cole's girlfriend. You'll dress the part, act the part, and convince everyone that you're madly in love with me. And if I refuse..." Adrian's smile was winter cold. "This isn't up for debate. You need my protection, and I need you to play along." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. This was the man she'd seen hints of at the club, the one who commanded fear and respect with a gesture. "I have a job," Lily said weakly. "A life. I can't just..." "You have a life because I'm allowing you to keep it." Adrian's voice cut through her protests like a blade. "Do you think her ex is just going to disappear? Do you think the people who saw us tonight are going to forget?" As if summoned by his words, Lily's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Then again. And again. "Might want to check those," Adrian suggested. With trembling fingers, Lily picked up her phone. 17 missed calls from Ryan. 43 text messages, each one more unhinged than the last. You think you're clever. I know where you live. He can't protect you forever. You're going to pay for humiliating me. The messages kept coming, a digital avalanche of rage and threats that made her blood run cold. He's lost his mind, she whispered. Men like Ryan don't handle rejection well, Adrian observed, reading over her shoulder. They especially don't handle public humiliation. Your ex just went from obsessed to dangerous. Before Lily could respond, her phone rang. Maya's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, Adrian said. But keep it brief. Maya? Lily's voice cracked. Oh my God, Lily. Her best friend's voice was high with panic. I just saw the videos from the club. Everyone's posting about you and Adrian Cole. Are you insane? Do you know who that man is? I'm fine, Lily said, acutely aware of Adrian listening to every word. Everything's under control. Under control? Lily, he's... Maya's voice cut off abruptly. Someone's at my door.
Weird.
It's almost midnight. Lily, I think. The line went dead. Adrian was already reaching for his own phone. Marco, he said without preamble. I need security at Maya Chen's apartment. Now he rattled off an address that made Lily's blood freeze. Maya's address. How do you know where she lives? Lily demanded. I know everything about you as of 20 minutes ago, Adrian replied, still speaking into his phone. Maya Chen, age 26, works at Mercy Hospital, drives a blue Honda Civic, apartment 4B on Ashland Avenue. He ended the call and looked at Lily. My people will make sure she's safe. Your people? The phrase sent chills down her spine. Welcome to my world, little one, Adrian stood, straightening his cufflinks with casual precision. I have men in every neighborhood, contacts in every business, eyes and ears throughout the city. Politicians take my calls, judges owe me favors, and police commissioners look the other way when I ask nicely. He moved closer, backing her against the wall with nothing more than his presence. I built an empire from blood and bullets, Lily. I own nightclubs and shipping companies, restaurants and construction firms. Half the city pays me tribute, and the other half wishes they were brave enough to try. Lily stared up at him, finally understanding the true scope of what she'd stumbled into. This wasn't just a man, this was a force of nature, a shadow king who ruled Chicago from the darkness. So, when I tell you that you're under my protection, Adrian continued, his voice soft but absolutely final, that's not a request or a suggestion. It's reality. Your reality now. Miles away, in a dingy bar on the south side, Ryan slammed his fist on the table, fury radiating from every pore. Across from him sat Vincent Torino, Adrian Cole's biggest rival, a man whose ambitions had been repeatedly crushed under Adrian's iron fist. You want revenge? Vincent asked, swirling his whiskey. I want Adrian Cole destroyed. Maybe we can help each other. Ryan's eyes glittered with malicious intent. What did you have in mind? Simple, Vincent smiled, revealing gold teeth. We take his new toy. We break her. And we watch him fall apart trying to save her. 3 days into her new reality, Lily discovered that being Adrian Cole's girlfriend was like living inside a beautifully decorated prison. Her modest studio had been transformed overnight. New locks that required fingerprint access, windows fitted with bulletproof glass, and a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. The clothes that had appeared in her closet were designer pieces worth more than her car, each one selected to project wealth and untouchability. But it was the constant presence of Adrian's men that truly drove home how dramatically her life had changed. I'm just going to grab coffee, Lily told Marcus, the stone-faced bodyguard currently stationed outside her apartment door. There's a cafe literally across the street. Mr. Cole's orders were very specific, Miss Chen. You don't go anywhere alone. To buy coffee. From a cafe. That I can see from my window. Marcus's expression didn't change. I'll accompany you. 20 minutes later, Lily sat in Brew and Bean, her usual morning sanctuary now feeling like a stage where she was the unwilling star. Marcus sat 2 tables away, his presence making the other customers nervous and the baristas jumpy. Her phone buzzed with a text from Adrian. "How's the coffee?" Lily looked around the cafe, spotting the surveillance camera in the corner that definitely hadn't been there last week. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "Are you watching me through cafe cameras now?" "I'm keeping you safe. There's a difference." "This is insane. I can't live like this." Her phone rang immediately. Adrian's voice was smooth as silk when she answered, but she was beginning to recognize the steel underneath. "Careful, little one. People are listening." She glanced around. Two businessmen at the corner table, a college student with headphones, an elderly woman reading a newspaper. They all looked normal, but Adrian's world had taught her that appearances were meaningless. "I need some space," she said quietly. "Space gets you killed," his voice hardened. "Ryan made 3 attempts to contact you yesterday alone. He followed your friend Maya to work, and he's been asking questions about your routine." "This isn't paranoia, Lily. It's survival." Before she could respond, the cafe door chimed. Lily's blood turned to ice as Ryan walked in, his eyes immediately finding hers across the crowded space. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot with a manic gleam that spoke of sleepless nights and dangerous obsessions. "I have to go," she whispered into the phone. "Don't hang up." "What's wrong?" Ryan was already moving toward her table, his stride purposeful and predatory. The few customers between them seemed to sense the tension, unconsciously shifting away from his path. Well, Ryan said as he reached her table, his voice loud enough to carry throughout the cafe. "If it isn't Chicago's newest princess." Marcus was rising from his chair, but Ryan's attention was laser-focused on Lily. "Enjoying your new life, sweetheart? Living in luxury while your old friends worry sick about you." "Ryan, please," Lily said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her throat. "Just leave." "Leave?" Ryan laughed, the sound sharp and unhinged. "I've been thinking about our last conversation, Lily. About how you threw me away for some criminal in an expensive suit. You think he actually cares about you? You're just another toy to him." Through the phone still pressed to her ear, she could hear Adrian's voice low and deadly. "Keep him talking. Help is coming." "I don't want to do this here," Lily said to Ryan, aware of the other customers watching with a mixture of fascination and alarm. "Then where?" Ryan leaned closer, his hands planted on her table. "Your fancy new apartment with its bulletproof windows? Did you think I wouldn't find out about that? I know everything, Lily. Your new address, your new clothes, your new life built on blood money." The cafe door opened again, and suddenly the atmosphere changed. 4 men in dark suits entered, moving with the same predatory grace she'd come to associate with Adrian's people. They spread out through the cafe, with professional efficiency, boxing Ryan in without him initially noticing. "You need to come with us, Mr. Thompson," Marcus said quietly, appearing at Ryan's shoulder. Ryan spun around, his face contorting with rage when he saw the men surrounding him. "You can't touch me. This is a public place." "Is it?" Marcus asked mildly. "Look around." Ryan's head whipped left and right. The cafe was empty except for Adrian's men. The customers had melted away as silently as ghosts, and even the baristas had disappeared into the back room. "How?" Ryan started. "Mr. Cole owns this block," Marcus explained with professional courtesy. "Has for years." The cafe owner was very understanding about giving us some privacy. The realization of how completely he was outmaneuvered hit Ryan like a physical blow. His face went pale, then flushed red with humiliation and fury. "This isn't over," he snarled at Lily. "He can't watch you every second of every day. I'll be waiting." "No," a new voice said from the cafe entrance. "You won't." Adrian stepped inside, and the very air seemed to change. He was dressed in another perfectly tailored suit, his pale green eyes fixed on Ryan with the intensity of a shark scenting blood. But it was his expression that made Lily's breath catch, cold, calculating, and absolutely merciless. "Mr. Thompson," Adrian said conversationally as he walked toward them. I believe we need to have a conversation about boundaries. Ryan tried to step back, but found his path blocked by the silent men behind him. I have rights. You have what I allow you to have, Adrian interrupted, his voice never rising above a conversational tone. And right now, you're testing the limits of my patience. He stopped directly in front of Ryan, close enough that the height difference was intimidating. I'm going to explain this once very clearly, so even someone with your limited intelligence can understand. The woman sitting at that table belongs to me. She is under my protection. And anyone who threatens what's mine. Adrian smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Lily had ever seen. Well, let's just say they tend to disappear from Chicago permanently. Ryan's face had gone white as paper. You can't just. Can't I? Adrian tilted his head slightly.
This is my city, boy.
Every block, every business, every corner belongs to me. You're here because I allow it. You breathe because I permit it. He stepped back, straightening his cufflinks with casual precision. Take him somewhere quiet and explain exactly what will happen if he comes near her again. As Marcus and the others escorted a now terrified Ryan from the cafe, Adrian turned to Lily. The cold mask had fallen away, replaced by something infinitely more complex, possessiveness, protectiveness, and something else that made her pulse race. Are you all right? He asked, his voice gentle now. Lily nodded, though her hands were shaking. How did you know he was here? I told you, I know everything. Adrian sat across from her, reaching out to cover her trembling hands with his. No one touches what's mine, Lily. No 1 inch. The words sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the growing realization that Adrian Cole's protection was becoming something far more personal than a business arrangement. The warehouse on the south side reeked of rust, stale beer, and desperation. Ryan sat across from Vincent Torino in what had once been a loading dock, now converted into a makeshift meeting space where Chicago's underworld conducted its darkest business. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered intermittently, casting harsh shadows across Vincent's scarred face. You came to me, Vincent said, leaning back in his metal chair. That takes either courage or stupidity. In my experience, they're often the same thing. Ryan's hands shook as he lifted his beer bottle to his lips. 3 days since his humiliation at the cafe, and the rage had only grown stronger, fed by sleepless nights and the constant replaying of Adrian Cole's threats. I want him destroyed, Ryan said, his voice hoarse with fury. I want him to lose everything, just like he made me lose everything. Vincent's laugh was like gravel in a blender. Adrian Cole has been a thorn in my side for 5 years. He's cost me millions, killed my men, and stolen my territory piece by piece. But wanting him destroyed and actually doing it are very different things. I know his weakness now. Ryan leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with desperate cunning. The girl.
Lily.
He's obsessed with her. So I've heard. Vincent's interest sharpened. The whole city's talking about Adrian Cole's mysterious new girlfriend. But what makes you think she's actually important to him? Could just be another plaything. You didn't see him at the cafe. Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper. The way he looked at her, the way he positioned himself between us. It wasn't just protection, it was possession. Take her, and you'll control him. Vincent was quiet for a long moment, his calculating gaze fixed on Ryan's face. And what do you get out of this arrangement? I want her back. Ryan's mask of reasonableness slipped, revealing the obsession underneath. After you use her to destroy Cole, I want Lily returned to me, broken enough to never run again. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken violence. Finally, Vincent smiled, revealing his gold teeth. I think we can do business, Mr. Thompson. Meanwhile, across the city in Adrian's penthouse office, Lily paced restlessly in front of floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Chicago's glittering skyline. She'd been waiting for 20 minutes while Adrian conducted business in the adjoining conference room, and the sound of muffled voices through the thick walls was making her increasingly nervous. She shouldn't be here at all. Adrian had originally planned to leave her at the apartment with her usual security detail, but something had changed his mind at the last minute. He'd insisted she come with him, his jaw tight with tension he refused to explain. The conference room door opened slightly, and two of Adrian's lieutenants emerged, Tommy, the tank Marconi, and James Sullivan, men whose reputations preceded them like storm clouds. They were deep in conversation, their voices low but urgent. "Increased patrols around all our properties," Tommy was saying. "Vincent's getting desperate, and desperate men do stupid things." "What about the girl?" Sullivan asked, glancing toward where Lily stood by the windows. "If Vincent really is planning something, boss wants her close," Tommy replied. "Can't say I blame him. She's a walking target now, and Vincent knows it." Lily's blood turned to ice. She pressed herself closer to the wall, straining to hear more. "The intel says they're planning to grab her within the week," Sullivan continued. "Use her as leverage to force Adrian into a corner. Vincent's been recruiting outside muscle, mercenaries who don't give a damn about our reputation. And if they succeed," Tommy's laugh was grim, "then we're looking at all-out war. Adrian won't negotiate when it comes to her. He'll burn the city down first." The men moved away, their voices fading, but the damage was done. Lily stood frozen by the window, their words echoing in her mind like a death sentence.
She was going to be kidnapped.
Used as a weapon against Adrian. And he knew. He'd known all along and hadn't told her. The conference room door opened fully, and Adrian emerged with the rest of his men. His pale green eyes immediately found hers, and she saw his expression shift as he took in her pale face and rigid posture. "Gentlemen, that's all for today," he said dismissively. "I'll speak with each of you individually tomorrow." As the room cleared, Adrian approached her slowly, like someone approaching a cornered animal. "You heard something," he said. It wasn't a question. "They're going to kidnap me," Lily's voice was barely above a whisper. "Vincent Torino is planning to take me, and you knew. You've known, and you didn't tell me." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Lily." "No." The word exploded from her with all the force of her terror and rage. "Don't you dare lie to me. I heard them talking about increased patrols, about Vincent recruiting mercenaries, about you burning down the city if they succeed." "I was handling it," Adrian said, his voice carefully controlled. "You didn't need to know the details." "Didn't need to know?" Lily stared at him in disbelief. "It's my life they're planning to destroy. My body they want to use as a bargaining chip. How could you think I didn't need to know?" "Because knowing would have made you panic," Adrian snapped, his composure finally cracking. "Would have made you do something stupid and reckless that would get you killed." "Like what?" "Like trying to leave." The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications neither wanted to voice. "Yes," Adrian said finally. "Exactly like that." Lily felt something break inside her chest. Not her heart, but something deeper. The last of her trust, perhaps, or her hope that this nightmare might eventually end. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I can't be your prisoner, your bait, your weakness that gets people killed. I won't." "Lily, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." She backed toward the office door, her decision crystallizing with each step. "I understand that as long as I'm with you, I'm a target. As long as I'm in Chicago, people will die because of me. As long as I exist in your world, everyone I care about is in danger." Adrian moved to intercept her, but she was already at the door. "Don't follow me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt.
"Don't send your men. Just
let me go." "I can't do that. Then I'll make the choice for both of us." That night, as Adrian's security team settled into their routine patrol patterns, as his surveillance cameras tracked every entrance and exit, as his men checked and double-checked every possible threat, Lily Chin did something that would change everything. She disappeared. Not dramatically, not with a grand escape plan, but simply and quietly, the way shadows fade when the sun goes down. One moment she was there in her apartment, surrounded by Adrian's protection, and the next she was gone, vanished into the Chicago night like smoke on the wind. By the time Adrian discovered her absence, Vincent Torino's plan was already in motion, and Ryan Thompson was smiling for the first time in weeks. The game had changed, and Lily had just become the most dangerous piece on the board. Lily pulled her hood lower as she hurried through Union Station, clutching a prepaid bus ticket to Milwaukee in her trembling hand. She'd managed to slip out of her apartment building through the service entrance during the 3 a.m. shift change, when Adrian's surveillance was at its weakest. 3 hours of freedom, and already she felt like she could breathe again. Her phone had been buzzing constantly since she'd left. Adrian's calls, his men's messages, even Maya trying to reach her. But Lily had made her choice. Better to disappear completely than to be the weapon that destroyed everyone she cared about. She was almost to the platform when her phone rang again. This time, the caller ID made her freeze. Ryan. Her first instinct was to ignore it, but something made her hesitate. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe desperation, or maybe the tiny hope that he might have information about Vincent's plans. Against every logical thought in her head, she answered. What do you want, Ryan? Lily, thank God, his voice was different, softer, more like the man she'd once thought she loved. I've been trying to reach you. I heard you ran away from Cole. How did you? She stopped herself. It didn't matter how he knew. I can't talk to you. It's not safe. That's why I'm calling. Ryan's voice was urgent, almost frantic. Look, I know you probably hate me after everything that's happened, but I can't just stand by and watch you get hurt. Vincent Torino is planning something big. Something that involves you. Lily's heart stuttered. What do you mean? I overheard some guys talking at a bar on the south side. They mentioned your name, said Vincent was planning to grab you as soon as you left Cole's protection. Lily, you're walking straight into a trap. She looked around the crowded station, paranoia creeping up her spine. Was someone watching her right now? Had Vincent's men already spotted her? I have to get out of the city, she whispered. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They're watching the airports, the train stations, the bus terminals. But I know a way out. A route they won't expect. Lily pressed her back against a pillar, her mind racing. Why would you help me? Because despite everything, I still care about you. Ryan's voice broke slightly. I know I screwed up, Lily. I know I scared you, and I hate myself for it. But I can't let you die because of my mistakes. For a moment, she almost believed him. This was the Ryan she'd fallen for originally. Gentle, protective, seemingly sincere. But memory of his recent behavior held her back. I don't know. Lily, please. They could grab you any second. I'm 10 minutes away from Union Station right now. Meet me at the parking garage on Lower Wacker, level B2. I have a car they won't recognize, and I know back roads that'll get you to the state line safely. She could hear the desperation in his voice, and something inside her chest loosened. Maybe people could change. Maybe Ryan really was trying to make amends for the hell he'd put her through. Level B2, she repeated. Northeast corner, by the maintenance entrance. Lily.
I'm sorry.
For everything. 20 minutes later, Lily stood in the dimly lit parking garage, her skin crawling with unease. The place was nearly empty, just a few scattered cars and the distant hum of ventilation systems. She was beginning to think this was a mistake when Ryan appeared from behind a concrete pillar. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, clothes rumpled like he'd been sleeping in them. But his smile was warm, genuine, exactly like the one that had first made her fall for him. I can't believe you came, he said, approaching slowly with his hands visible. I was afraid you wouldn't trust me. I'm not sure I do, Lily admitted. But I don't have many options right now. I understand. Ryan gestured toward a nondescript sedan parked in the shadows. The car's over here. I mapped out a route that avoids all the major highways. We can have you across the Wisconsin border in 3 hours. Something felt wrong, but Lily couldn't put her finger on what. Maybe it was just her paranoia, or maybe. Ryan, she said slowly, how did you know I'd be at Union Station? His step faltered for just a moment. I didn't. I've been calling all the transportation hubs, hoping to catch you. The lie hit her like ice water. She'd never told anyone her destination, had bought her ticket with cash, and kept her plans completely secret. There was no way Ryan could have known to call Union Station specifically unless… "You've been tracking me," she whispered. Ryan's mask slipped completely, his expression transforming into something cold and calculating. "Smart girl. Too bad you figured it out too late." Men emerged from behind parked cars like shadows given form, 5 of them, moving with professional precision. Not Adrian's men. These were strangers, mercenaries with dead eyes and expensive weapons. "I'm sorry, Lily," Ryan said, but his voice held no remorse. "I really am. But you chose him over me, and that has consequences." She turned to run, but there was nowhere to go. The men surrounded her with practiced efficiency, cutting off every escape route. One of them, a tall man with prison tattoos covering his neck, smiled as he produced a syringe. "Nothing personal, sweetheart," he said. "Just business." The needle bit into her neck before she could scream. Adrian's phone shattered against his office wall, the sound echoing through the penthouse like a gunshot. Marcus stood in the doorway, his face grim as he delivered the worst possible news. "She's been gone for 4 hours, Marcus reported. Security footage shows she left through the service entrance at 3:17 a.m. We've checked every camera in a 6-block radius, but she vanished into the blind spot near the L tracks. 4 hours, Adrian's voice was deadly quiet, the kind of calm that preceded hurricanes. And you're just telling me now?" The night shift assumed she was in the apartment. It wasn't until the morning team tried to deliver breakfast that we realized. Adrian's fist connected with his desk, sending papers flying and leaving a crack in the expensive wood. "I want every man we have on the streets. Check the airports, train stations, bus terminals, car rentals." She couldn't have gotten far. "Sir." Tommy Marconi appeared in the doorway, his face pale. "You need to see this." He held out a cell phone displaying a video message. Adrian's blood turned to ice as Lily's unconscious form filled the screen, zip-tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Vincent Torino's scarred face appeared next to her, his gold teeth glinting in the harsh lighting. "Hello, Adrian." Vincent's voice was mockingly cheerful. "I believe I have something that belongs to you. Or should I say someone? Your little girlfriend is quite pretty when she's sleeping, though I can't guarantee she'll stay that way much longer." The camera panned to show at least a dozen armed men positioned around the warehouse, their weapons trained on Lily's motionless form. "Here's the deal," Vincent continued. "You have 24 hours to transfer ownership of the Southside docks, your downtown territory, and exactly $50 million to accounts I'll specify. Do this, and you get your toy back in one piece." "Refuse." Vincent drew a knife, letting the blade catch the light inches from Lily's throat. "Well, let's just say you'll be receiving her back in several smaller packages." The video ended, leaving Adrian staring at the black screen with an expression that made his men step back involuntarily. "Sir?" Marcus ventured carefully. When Adrian finally spoke, his voice carried the promise of apocalypse. "Call everyone. Every soldier, every associate, every man who owes us a favor. I want Vincent Torino's operation torn apart brick by brick." His pale green eyes had gone Arctic cold. "And I want Ryan Thompson brought to me alive. I have special plans for him." Chicago was about to discover exactly what happened when someone took something that belonged to Adrian Cole. The war had begun. The abandoned steel mill on the outskirts of Chicago had been silent for 20 years, its rusted towers and broken windows a monument to the city's industrial past. Tonight it became a battlefield. Adrian crouched behind a concrete barrier, his pale green eyes surveying the compound through high-tech night vision scopes. 30 of his best men were positioned around the perimeter, each one handpicked for this operation. But Adrian had made one thing crystal clear. When they breached that warehouse, Lily was his priority. Everyone else was expendable. "Snipers in position," came the voice through his earpiece. "Count 6 hostiles on the roof, another dozen inside based on heat signatures." "Vincent." Adrian's voice was ice-cold efficiency. "Northwest corner, ground floor. Target appears to be near the primary asset.
Lily.
They meant Lily, but Adrian couldn't afford to think of her as anything more than an objective right now. If he let emotion cloud his judgment, she'd die, and he'd lose the only thing that had ever mattered to him. Remember, Adrian spoke into his radio, his voice carrying to all 30 men simultaneously. The girl comes out alive, or none of you do. Vincent Torino dies tonight, but I want him breathing long enough to regret his choices. He checked his weapons one final time, a custom .45 caliber pistol and the knife he'd carried since his first kill 15 years ago. Both had tasted blood countless times, but tonight felt different. Tonight was personal. Move. The assault began like thunder breaking over the lake. Adrian's men struck the compound from 4 directions simultaneously, their suppressed weapons taking out Vincent's sentries with surgical precision. By the time the alarm finally sounded, half of Vincent's forces were already down. Adrian moved through the chaos like death incarnate, his expensive suit somehow remaining immaculate despite the violence surrounding him. He'd discarded the civilized mask he wore in boardrooms and charity galas, revealing the predator that had clawed its way to the top of Chicago's underworld. A gunman rounded the corner ahead of him, weapon raised. Adrian's pistol spoke once, and the man crumpled without firing a shot. Another appeared from a doorway to his left. Adrian's knife found his throat before he could scream. The warehouse's main floor opened up before him, a cavernous space filled with abandoned machinery and makeshift barriers. And there, in the center of it all, was Lily. She was conscious now, zip-tied to a metal chair with blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Vincent stood behind her, one hand gripping her hair, the other pressing a pistol to her temple. Around them, his remaining men had formed a defensive circle, their weapons trained on the entrances. Adrian Cole. Vincent's voice echoed through the warehouse. I was wondering when you'd show up. Though I have to say, your timing could be better. Adrian stepped into the open, his own weapon lowered but ready. The sight of Lily's bloodied face sent rage coursing through his veins like molten steel, but his voice remained perfectly controlled. Let her go, Vincent. This is between you and me. Is it? Vincent laughed, the sound harsh and grating. Because it seems to me like you've grown soft, Adrian. Time was, you'd never have risked an operation like this for one woman. But here you are, walking into my trap like a lovesick teenager. Your trap? Adrian's smile was winter cold. Look around, Vincent.
Count your men.
Then count mine. For the first time, Vincent's confidence wavered. Through the warehouse windows, muzzle flashes lit up the night as Adrian's forces systematically eliminated the remaining resistance. The sounds of gunfire were growing closer, more desperate. It doesn't matter, Vincent snarled, pressing the gun harder against Lily's head. You take one more step and she dies. You back off and maybe we can. The shot came from behind Vincent, taking out one of his men with precision accuracy. In the split second of confusion that followed, Adrian moved. He covered the distance between them in heartbeats, his body a blur of controlled violence. Vincent swung his pistol toward Adrian, but he was too slow. Adrian's knife buried itself in Vincent's wrist, and the gun clattered to the concrete floor. You made one mistake, Vincent, Adrian said as he grabbed the other man by the throat. You touched what's mine. Vincent tried to speak, but Adrian's grip cut off his air supply. Around them, the last of Vincent's men fell to Adrian's soldiers, their resistance finally broken. Please, Vincent gasped when Adrian loosened his hold slightly. The money, I'll give it all back. The territories, the docks, everything. You're right, Adrian said conversationally. You will give it all back. But not because I'm letting you live. The knife moved faster than Vincent could follow, sliding between his ribs with surgical precision. Vincent's eyes went wide with shock, then dimmed as his life bled out onto the warehouse floor. No one betrays me and lives, Adrian said to the corpse. A movement in his peripheral vision made him spin, weapon raised. Ryan Thompson burst from behind a stack of crates, a pistol in his shaking hands and pure terror on his face. Stay back. Ryan screamed, his voice cracking with hysteria. "I'll kill her. I swear I'll." Adrian's shot took him center mass before he could finish the threat. Ryan staggered backward, disbelief replacing the fear in his eyes as he looked down at the spreading crimson stain on his chest. "You," Adrian said, walking toward Ryan's fallen form. "You started this. You brought violence into her life, and then you sold her to my enemies." Ryan tried to speak, but only blood came out. Adrian crouched beside him, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. "Did you really think I'd let you live after what you did to her?" Ryan's eyes went glassy, and he was still. Adrian turned back to Lily, quickly cutting through her restraints with Vincent's own knife. She collapsed into his arms, her body shaking with exhaustion and trauma. "It's over," he murmured against her hair, his voice gentle now in a way that would have shocked his enemies. "You're safe. I've got you." But as Lily looked up at him, this man who had just killed 2 people without hesitation, who commanded an army of killers, who had torn apart half of Chicago to get her back, she finally understood the full scope of what she meant to him. And what that meant for her future. "Adrian," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the ringing in her ears. "What happens now?" His pale green eyes met hers, and in them she saw something that was equal parts promise and threat. "Now," he said softly, "I never let you out of my sight again." Adrian's mansion perched on the shores of Lake Michigan like a fortress, its towering windows reflecting the dawn light that painted the water in shades of gold and crimson. Lily stood in the marble foyer, still wearing the torn clothes from her ordeal, dried blood flaking from the cut on her forehead. Everything felt surreal, like she was moving through someone else's life. The past 6 hours blurred together in fragments: the warehouse rescue, the drive through empty Chicago streets, the army of servants who'd materialized to tend to her wounds. Now, in the silence of Adrian's domain, reality was finally catching up with her. She was alive. Ryan was dead. Vincent was dead. And she belonged to the most dangerous man in Chicago. "The doctor said you have a mild concussion." Adrian's voice came from behind her, soft but commanding. "You should be resting." Lily didn't turn around. She couldn't face him yet, not when her emotions were this raw and chaotic. "I keep thinking I should feel guilty," she whispered. "About Ryan. About Vincent. They're dead because of me. They're dead because they made choices." Adrian's footsteps were silent on the marble floor as he approached. Ryan chose obsession over acceptance. Vincent chose greed over survival. "You didn't kill them, Lily." "I did." The casual way he said it, like discussing the weather, sent a shiver down her spine. This was who Adrian Cole really was beneath the expensive suits and controlled exterior. A killer who eliminated threats with surgical precision and slept soundly afterward. "How many people have you killed?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Enough, he was close now, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Does it matter?" It should. Lily finally turned to face him, her eyes searching his face for some sign of remorse, of humanity. "It should matter that you ended 2 lives tonight. The only thing that matters," Adrian said, reaching up to cup her chin with gentle fingers, "is that you're alive and standing here with me." His touch was warm, possessive, and despite everything she'd witnessed, Lily felt herself leaning into it. That realization terrified her more than the violence ever could. "I tried to run away," she said, as if confessing a sin. "I know." Adrian's thumb traced across her cheekbone, his pale green eyes never leaving hers. "I also know why. You thought you were protecting me, protecting everyone around you. But there's something you need to understand, little 1-inch." He stepped closer, backing her against the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the lake. The sunrise painted them both in warm light, but Lily felt cold despite his proximity. "You begged me to pretend," Adrian continued, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than any shout. "But this was never fake for me. From the moment you looked up at me in that club, desperate and beautiful and brave enough to gamble with the devil himself, you were mine." "Adrian." Let me finish. His other hand braced against the window beside her head, caging her in without making her feel trapped. You think this started as protection, as a business arrangement. But I've been watching you, learning you, falling for you since that first night. Your strength when you stood up to Ryan. Your compassion when you worried about your friend Maya. The way you challenge me when everyone else just fears me. Lily stared up at him, seeing something in his expression she'd never noticed before. Vulnerability. This man who commanded armies and toppled empires was laying his heart bare, and the sight of it stole her breath. You're not my fake girlfriend anymore, Lily, Adrian said, his voice rough with emotion. You're not my responsibility or my weakness or my burden. You're mine, in every way that matters. In every way there is. The weight of his words crashed over her like a wave. What had started as a desperate plea in a crowded nightclub had evolved into something infinitely more complex and dangerous. This wasn't protection anymore. It was possession. It wasn't pretend. It was real. And it wasn't temporary. It was forever. I'm scared, she whispered, the admission torn from her lips before she could stop it. Of me.
Of this. Of us.
Of what I'm becoming. Lily looked down at her hands, remembering how she'd felt when Ryan and Vincent died. Not horror, but relief. 3 months ago, I was a normal person with a normal life. Now I'm standing in a mansion built on blood money, and I don't even feel guilty that 2 men died because of me. What does that make me? Mine, Adrian said simply. It makes you mine. He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his gaze. You want to know the truth?
You could leave right now.
Walk out that door, disappear into witness protection, start over somewhere far from Chicago. I have the connections to make it happen. Hope flickered in Lily's chest, then died as she saw the certainty in his eyes. But you won't, Adrian continued. Because you know what I know, that leaving me would be far deadlier than loving me. Not because I'd hunt you down, but because you'd spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, wondering when my enemies would find you. When someone would try to use you to hurt me, even from a distance. The truth of his words settled over her like a shroud. There was no going back to her old life, no pretending this had never happened. The moment she'd claimed Adrian Cole as her boyfriend, she'd stepped into his world permanently. And more than that, Adrian said, his voice dropping to a whisper. You don't want to leave. I see it in your eyes, Lily. The way you look at me now isn't fear, it's recognition. You see yourself in me, the person you're becoming. Strong enough to survive in my world, ruthless enough to thrive in it. He was right, and that terrified her most of all. Standing here in his arms, surrounded by luxury built on violence, she didn't want to run anymore. She wanted to stay, to claim her place at his side, to become the queen of his dark empire. What happens now? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Adrian's smile was soft and predatory all at once, as he leaned down to press his forehead against hers. Now, we stop pretending this was ever anything other than what it was meant to be. Now you take your place beside me, not as my protection detail or my fake girlfriend, but as my partner, my equal. Your queen, Lily whispered, the word feeling both foreign and natural on her tongue. My queen, Adrian agreed, and when he kissed her, it tasted like power and possession and promises that would never be broken. As the sun rose fully over Lake Michigan, painting the mansion in golden light, Lily Chun made her final choice. She kissed Adrian Cole back with all the passion and darkness that had been growing inside her, accepting not just him but the person she was becoming. The desperate girl who'd begged a stranger to pretend was gone forever. In her place stood someone far more dangerous, a woman who'd chosen love over safety, power over innocence, and Adrian Cole over the entire world. And she'd never looked back.